Hello, everyone, and welcome to Audio Judo. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Kyle.
This is your podcast of music discovery. We're proud members of the Pantheon Podcast Network, premier source of music podcasts. And besides this podcast, which is now recording episode number 162, we also produce two other podcasts, Audio Judo Does Jazz and Throughline. You can find both of those podcasts on Pantheon as well on our website, audiojudo.com, or anywhere else that podcasts are podcasts. So, after a 2-episode trip into Matthew's 80s brain, we give Kyle a shot to pick an album. What does he choose? An album from the 1980s. You son of a bitch.
What can I say? Completely random. And in fact, this album was fairly random. Like, one of the things that I've been trying to do, because you have this huge mental catalog of every album you've ever heard just a little bit of. I feel like it's filed away in there somewhere.
Yes.
And you can just with a moment's notice, you can be like, yes, of course, let me pull this out of the library. And track 12, of course, was and it was a wonderful. I can't do that. I don't have any of that. This is all just a jumble. It's like those hoarder houses, on the show Hoarders.
Oh yeah.
That look fine from the outside, and then they open the door, and it's just
you're like,
oh my god.
Ooh.
Yeah, you have to climb through.
Did you reach into the obscure grab bag for this?
No. What I've been doing, because a lot of that stuff is just packed in there, but it's not important stuff. All the stuff that's in there is not useful if I'm realistic. But because of that, what I've started doing is looking for albums that people have missed, bands that people have missed, things that might be good from the time periods that we talked a lot about. I mean, we've talked a lot about the 70s and 80s and the 90s. So what I've been doing is going back and being like, hey, what bands from the 80s that were like rock bands? There's a lot of pop bands from the 80s that are, they had a hit or one-hit wonders or whatever. But like, what rock bands were there in the 70s and 80s that were making significant numbers of albums? That's my number one criteria, is they had to make more than one album. So it's not just, a fluke. Number two, they had to be somewhat successful with at least one of their albums. Maybe not the one that we're going to talk about, but they had to be somewhat successful. And number three, they had to have some kind of a recognizable song on at least one of those albums.
Okay.
And again, maybe it's not the one we talk about, but they have some recognizable song that's like, oh yeah, I recognize that song. Let's talk about the album they did after that. That's actually a better album, but doesn't have a hit or whatever.
It's interesting. I like your criteria.
Yeah. That's kind of where I've been going with this.
Well evolved.
Thank you. It's, it's one of those things where my list has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter over time of, what albums do I want to talk about? And so now it's kind of, this is how I've been going about finding what we're going to talk about next, hopefully. But one of the bands that this led me to is Chilliwack. Fun name to say.
Fun name.
It's a band that I had not ever, I'd heard this name before, but I had no recognition of who they were, what they had done as a band. And so kind of digging into it, the album that I picked is kind of their I would guess their most successful album of their career. It's called Wanna Be a Star. Released in 1981, September 1981. It's what I would consider a light concept album. There's a continuous story throughout this album, but it's not really tied together. There's not like a character. There's not really it's just a story that kind of gets told through this album.
It's all about the same kind of subject matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And outside of like a really very small handful of people that really listen to deep cuts of rock and roll or whatever this considered to be, no one knew who this was. I even had to go into the way back memory centers to remember this band at all. So when I sat down to listen to the record, I listened to what are essentially the two hits, and I didn't listen to anything else right away. I just listened to those two hits, and I'm like, Okay, I remember this to some degree. I'm familiar with the sound of these songs, uh, but when I listen to the whole record, oof,
Yeah.
mm,
There's
no. Mhm.
it. It's beyond the hits. It's again, it's not a horrible rock album. It's also not exactly what I would call. I mean, there's a reason why it was mildly successful.
It's an okay record. So like you
Yes.
said, released in September of '81 in their home. It did fine in their home country
Yeah.
in
Ended
Canada.
up being it ended up being certified platinum in Canada, which is 100,000 units sold, which is pretty good for Canada.
Yeah, and it had two bona fide hits for the band.
Mm,
My Girl Gone 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 and I Believe. Um, it's not groundbreaking. It's not influential to any degree. It's an
yeah.
okay record. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay to listen to.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
We're gonna
there
keep
are
saying that.
well,
This is
there are
okay.
certain limitations on it that as you listen to the record completely, you're like, okay, someone someone either ran
Okay.
out of money or really didn't want to spend a lot of time
Yeah.
doing certain things to the record.
Well,
So
and and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for a lot of that, and we'll come back to that later.
yeah,
But let's talk a little bit about Chilliwack. So,
Chilliwack.
Chilliwack. So they're from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and they actually started as a band called C Fun Classics. That is the letter
Mm.
C dash Fun Classics.
Mm-hmm.
They then changed their name to the Collectors. One again, and Bill Henderson joined in 1968. So they were going in the late 60s,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, they were around for a long time, and they technically still are. I mean, I think their newest album came out in like 2000 or 2022. So
Surprisingly, yes, they're
yeah,
still around. Yeah.
yeah. They actually started out as sort of a psychedelic rock band. Their first album, self-titled album, as the Collectors, had a song on it called "Lydia Purple." It was a minor hit in Canada. Their next album was a musical score for a stage play called "Grass and Wild Strawberries." It's very psychedelic as well.
Did you
They had
go and listen to Lydia Purple by any chance?
I did not
Ugh.
fully. Like I listened to about 10
Woo!
seconds of it because I was just in a hurry, but
Woo!
a
Yeah.
little
I mean, we're trying to be psychedelic. We sure are. And when you make an attempt at it, you know, go whole
this
hog.
is
There's no way
this
to.
is this is actually something else that I have found in using that same criteria that I was talking about earlier, looking for new albums. There are a lot more psychedelic bands from that area or era of like 1965 to early 70s than anybody knows about.
Correct.
And you
Everybody was
start to
doing.
oh yeah, and you start to dig down that rabbit hole and you're like, "Oh, there's like the couple dozen that had like hits that are
Mhm.
like, oh, everybody remembers these people." And then underneath that there's this full like layer of like, oh, there's a few hits in here and I remember this song from a movie and I remember this, oh, okay. But then underneath that there is this giant pile of just psychedelic rock bands that people have never heard. There's like one person out there who's like, "Oh, I had this album, I bought it secondhand in the 1970s. It was my favorite album of all time." And you go listen to it, you're like, "Oh, maybe this is my hidden gem." And it's an hour of
It's essentially what it is. So if you've
yeah,
ever gone to, Wikipedia and just typed in psychedelic rock bands from the 60s, you will
yeah,
get the 11 bands that you're like, I know Moody
mhm.
Blues, I know this, Jefferson Airplane, I know these bands. Great. What the
13th
hell
floor
is all this other
elevators,
shit?
yeah,
Well, who are these bands? And so I think I'm on two. I'm on two social media pages. One is Prague, Prague Society, and one is like a psychedelic society, and they both post like 2 or 3 times a week an album that they like. Who remembers this record? And it is, and the Prague stuff. I'm like, hell yeah, I know Camel. I know all these bands. I know Ozric Tentacles. I know all these bands. And they get the psychedelic bands. I'm like, what is this? And so I listened to it, and and it is just like you said. It is super stoned people
yeah.
just making noise through oscillators, and like they're using every effect, and there weren't that many effects in the '60s,
No,
not like
but
now.
They were
but
trying to do every single one.
everything, just stupid, like ridiculous amounts of panning for no reason, and using the whole stereo space and like, and I'm like,
Absolutely
okay, if I was
every
still stoned, this
probably
stuff would
great.
probably be pretty good.
Absolutely every guitarist too is trying to pull off a Hendrix as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They are trying so hard to just like, how do I like
Phasing, all kinds
like,
of weird phasing and stuff, and you're like, okay, I get it, because and it's no different than it is now. You find a genre like goth or whatever's popular, or like Green Day or bands like that in the early 2000s, and you get 2,000 bands that are trying to do exactly that.
Yeah.
And then
And
and
again,
none of them do it well. And the reason why Green Day and those other bands are popular is because they do it well. And
Yeah.
all these other bands try and then just seem like poor facsimiles. And that's why some of this record that we're about to talk about falls so short of
Yeah.
other sounds being made at the same time that aren't that far off, but are enough far off to make this sound really pedestrian.
Yes.
I hope I said that right.
Yes, and I would 100% agree with that. I think I wrote basically that same thing with different words later on in my notes.
Okay.
Because this is another one of those cases where this is actually the opposite case. There have been several times where we've talked about bands who were first. Like
Yes. Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground. Why was that name escaping me? Like Velvet Underground is the example I always use, because you go back and listen to them and you're like, well, this is 60s rock. This is not that great. This is mediocre, but they are famous because they did it first.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of bands that took that same sound and ran with it through the 60s that nobody knows because they were mediocre, and lots of other people bubbled up to the top because they were doing it better. They were doing it more popular. They got lucky. Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think
that's a part of it.
All that being said, I do think that it's worth listening to a lot of those bands. I think it's worth going back and, not everything has to always be, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Go back and listen to some of the mediocre stuff. Maybe not the bad stuff, but you don't know until you've actually listened to it. So go back and give it a listen and see, maybe for you, it really strikes a chord and you're like, wow, actually this person like on playing the drums was actually amazing. Who are they? And then you look them up and whatever. Anyways, totally off on a tangent there.
So we got derailed.
Yeah, so they were the Collectors. That was the name of the band at the time. They had a vocalist, a guy named Howie Vickers, who left the band. At that time, they changed their name to Chilliwack. Chilliwack is a city east of Vancouver. The name comes from the Salish language, the local indigenous tribe, and it means the Valley of Many Streams. Bill Henderson came in and led this new band called Chilliwack, and the remaining members: Glenn Miller on bass, guitar and backing vocals, Ross Turney on drums, and Claire Lawrence on flute, saxophone, keyboards, and backing vocals.
I thought Glenn Miller was a trombonist.
different Glenn Miller.
Oh shit! Okay.
That would be so great if Glenn Miller, the famous Glenn Miller who disappeared, right? Because he just he got on a plane or
plane crash,
and disappeared, and then surfaces in 1960
in Vancouver,
and forms the band Chilliwack, and then disappears again.
And he's playing
the guitar, playing bass, and then just disappears. That would be so amazing.
It'd be a great story.
That would actually be a real mystery. That would
that'd be a really good movie. You should write a movie about that. Yeah. Is that Glenn Miller?
That would be great.
I think so. No,
so,
but now he's gone again.
The band had a lot of personnel changes through the 70s. They shuffled people around. They also shuffled around between labels.
Oh, hell yeah, they did.
Between when they formed and when we get to Want to Be a Star, they had 8 albums and 5 labels. So, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But
sure.
They did have a hit single in Canada called Lonesome Mary, which 1972. It also was their first U.S. charting single, went to number 75 on the Billboard Hot 100 in February 72. Their most successful song from that time was a song called Crazy Talk that went to number 98 in the U.S. in 1975. They also had a track called Reno, which is a blues-based song. That there's a few different versions out there on different albums, but it has become this like huge concert favorite for them. But the song is actually too long to be released as a single, or was at the time.
Mm.
So it was released on all, like 3 different albums with 3 different super long versions. But they kind of play it as more of like a jam band kind of a track when they're doing it live. April 74, they released an album called Riding High, which had that hit song Crazy Talk that I mentioned. It was actually released in the US under the name Chilliwack, which was the 3rd album by Chilliwack to come out in the US, called Chilliwack, which is another one of those. It's just another. And then because of all the issues they were having with labels, none of these were being promoted properly in the US.
Uh-huh.
And so they just kept shuffling and shuffling. They had 3 albums that all had the same name, and they were just getting shuffled around. So their 5th album is called Rocker Box, came out in 75. It was not very successful at all. They then released an album called Dreams, 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 and another one called Lights from the Valley. They turned over more band members. So by this point, it's just a mess. They ended up replacing a guy named Howard Freeze with a guy named Brian McLeod, who ended up playing drums, keyboards, guitar, and backing vocals. They also used a session drummer named Eddie Tuduri on some parts of that album. By the time Lights from the Valley actually was released, Glenn Miller and Ross Turney had also left the band. So by this point, Bill Henderson, Brian McLeod, and a guy named Ab Bryant began working on their 8th album. They were joined by a guy named John Rolls on guitar, keyboards, backing vocals, and by a drummer named Bucky Berger. So they got a new record label called Mushroom Records, which sadly went bankrupt because the owner passed away. And it was while they were releasing an album called Breakdown in Paradise, which is maybe the most fitting name for like, hey, we're releasing an album. And it's like, actually, you're not.
Actually, we have no money.
Yeah. So
okay.
they then replaced Berger with a guy named Rick Taylor, and this they toured with that lineup of Rick Taylor, Henderson, McLeod, Bryant, and Rolls in 1980. They then signed with yet 2 more record labels, Solid Gold Records in Canada and Millennium Records in the US. In 1981, they turned the band into a trio of Bill Henderson, Brian McLeod, and Ab Bryant. And that was when they went back into the studio to record Wanna Be a Star. But as I've sort of alluded to already, they couldn't go straight into the studio and just record. So Mushroom Records still technically had them under contract, and there was a huge copyright dispute going on. And Mushroom Records was like, you cannot go into the studio and record as Chilliwack. You're not allowed. So they snuck into a studio. It was, let's see here, Water Street Sound Studios in Vancouver. Under different pseudonyms. So they would sneak in, they would go in late at night to record. They would sneak into the studio, basically record songs, record tracks. And then they used that to shop around and actually sign up with Solid Gold and Millennium Records. So they had these demos that they recorded in the studio of several of the songs from Wanna Be a Star, shopped those around, got signed up, and then moved on to record this album. It's their 9th album. They didn't have a full-time drummer. So Brian McLeod played guitars, keyboards, and drums while they were in the studio. And like I said, it was certified platinum. There's not a whole lot
in
of
Canada.
In Canada. It's certified platinum in Canada.
In Canada.
There's not a whole lot written about this album. There's not,
No.
There's one song on here. If you're kind of a classic rock radio person, you will probably recognize.
Yes.
But it really is kind of an unknown album. So
yeah, and everyone, like you named all of those artists: Henderson, McLeod, Bryant, Taylor, Berger, Layton, all these guys. I don't know Howard Freeze. I don't know any of these names, with the exception of Glenn Miller. And not because it's that Glenn Miller, just because it's Glenn Miller. But they're all journeyman musicians with no real star cachet behind them. And marketing bands like this, I mean, one of the labels they played for it at one point was Terry Jack's label, the Goldfish Records. Terry Jacks is the guy that wrote and recorded Seasons in the Sun. So, there was a little name power. That was the limit of their name power, of anything they had behind them to kind of thrust them forward at any point. And while the songs, we'll talk about it in the track by track, while the songs are written all right, There's nothing standoutish about any of it. Like the voices they're fine, but nothing. Like if you hear a vocalist from like Michael McDonald is always the one, or Kenny Loggins. Like you can hear
Sure.
if you don't know that it's a Kenny Loggins song. Like you play a track from an obscure Kenny Loggins record in the '70s for the first time for you, you still know that voice.
Yeah.
You know that's Kenny Loggins, even if you've never heard that Kenny Loggins song before. And this doesn't have that. You wouldn't know who these guys are without being told.
Sure. So this makes me want to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be a star? No. No.
No.
Do you think this is one of those weird cases where one change would have thrust them forward into stardom? Like, had they gotten some producer to come along and be like, this is what you need to do to like zhuzh this up, and bam, suddenly this album is a huge pop hit.
I think it's entirely possible.
We need to bring in one more member. You're no longer a trio, you're a quartet, and here's your new vocalist, and they're going to launch you into superstardom. Or, hey, we're going to bring in one more instrumentalist so that you guys can focus on we're going to bring in a drummer so you don't have to focus on drums, guitar, and keyboards. You can focus on just guitar and keyboards.
Yeah, and I think there is that possibility, especially around this particular time and around this particular genre of music that we really haven't addressed. It's a rock album, yes, but it falls into a weird subgenre. And I feel like there's so many records that I can name that I couldn't name another song by this band just because Michael McDonald sang on it, or Jeff Porcaro played drums on it, or Steve Luthier from Toto played guitar on it. Like, you're like, all of a sudden, it has a value that it didn't have before because someone else attached their name to it. And I think, like, the song that everyone might know, My Girl Gone Gone Gone, when we get to it, you'll recognize it, but not as much as you may have had someone else been involved to tweak it a little bit. And I think there is part of that because there are so many songs that if you listen to like yacht rock or soft rock radio station, you're like, I love this song, man. This is really great. I love Player, and you're like, okay, that's not Player. Well, what's the name of this band? And then you look it up, and it's like the Jim Clark Five, and you're like, I've never heard of that band. Yes, but you know this song, don't you? Well, yeah, because it sounds like I've heard it like 100,000 times, right? But you don't know who it is. And I think they could have got to that point, at least to that point. Had they got name recognition? Probably not. But they could have got to a point where this one song sets them up for a career that would have lasted 40 years, that they're not just playing, state fairs and stuff. Because I feel like that's where they're at this point.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely is. Yeah.
I feel like it could have. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Cover art?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. It's very
I actually really like this.
Typically late 70s, 80s. It looks like something that could have been done by our pals at Hypnosis. It has, it's dark. It's got some guy walking down a street. It's not an innovative look, but it gets the job done. It's an effective album cover.
Yeah, it was designed by a guy named Dean Motter. I looked him up. He's an art director who's worked with a number of kind of not famous bands from the late 70s.
Triumph.
Late 70s. Triumph. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Triumph.
Loverboy.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Missed that one on my list. All right. So there you go. He did Loverboy, apparently. Yeah, but from the late 70s all the way into the 2000s. So apparently he had a pretty good career. There's also some photography by John Baturin and Tom Robe. John, looking him up, is only credited with this album, so I'm assuming he was probably somebody who the band knew. Tom is credited with photography on a few albums, but not a whole lot of info about him. Again, a couple of albums I'd not really recognized before. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, liner notes were written by a guy named Kerry Duell. He's credited with writing liner notes for Chilliwack, the band Toronto, the Headpins, among some other bands. I had no idea there was somebody whose job was just to write liner notes.
Oh, that's a big deal. Outside, like
Editing, copywriting, sure, but like you would think that would come from the band. But
usually it does. Usually there's
yeah,
one guy in the band that's assigned that duty. That he said, dude.
duty. Well, I do like the front cover. I actually like the rear cover more.
The rear
Uh,
cover.
Rear cover. I don't know if you saw it,
Ooh,
but it's
party.
yeah, it's a boat. So it's like the backyard of a mansion, and there's
Yeah.
a huge yacht trapped inside of a tiny pool. And the three band members are all kind of in various states of just like passing out, basically from partying too hard on the boat. And
Hmm.
there's three women around the boat as well, in bikinis. I think one of them is actually topless, but she's covered up. But I thought this to me is like 5 years later, this absolutely would have been like a Beastie Boys album cover, or like just like an '80s like, what's the problem here? Like
Uh,
the Beastie Boys 1987 album. What's the problem here, officer? Would have been.
it
It
has that.
absolutely would have been.
It has that look to it. Yeah.
It has
It's
that look.
like,
It has that energy to it.
and they just it looked like someone designing it went through every trope they could find and
Oh yeah,
like 80s party rock band. Let's
yeah.
put you on a boat
But
in a
it
pool.
definitely feels when we talk about the concept of this album, that fits much more to me than what's on the front.
Oh, I would agree with you.
Like, and
Yes.
I do wonder. I tried to find out if this was like, I kind of figured maybe this was what was originally taken as like that's going to be our cover photo, and then along the way, somebody was like, I don't think we want to put that on the cover. Let's throw that on the back and get somebody to design us a real cover. And they had Dean Motter come in and design this cover for him, and then go on from there. But I
I think
couldn't
it's
find any.
pops.
Of
Yeah, I
that,
couldn't
so.
find anything about that either. All right.
Should we take a quick break, come back, and we'll do a track by track?
Sounds good.
We'll see you in a minute.
All right. Today's show is brought to you by Atomic Podcast Services. Are you tired of spending hours hunched over your computer struggling to edit your podcast episodes? Do you want more time to create instead of editing? Well, we have the solution for you. Introducing Atomic Podcast Services, a premium podcast editing service that will take your show to the next level.
With Atomic Podcast Services, you can say goodbye to tedious editing tasks and hello to a polished, professional-sounding podcast. They will expertly enhance your audio quality, seamlessly remove background noise, and ensure every episode sounds crystal clear. But that's not all. As part of their premium service, they will also help you with ID3 tagging, scheduling, and posting of episodes, and for a little extra, even create engaging audiograms to promote your episodes on social media platforms. There's even a discount if you subscribe to their monthly services. With Atomic Podcast Services, you'll have more time to focus on what you do best, creating incredible content.
So why waste another minute struggling with complex editing software? Let Atomic Podcast Services take care of the technical side while you focus on captivating your audience. Visit their website at atomicpods, that's pods with a Z.com, to learn more and book your editing session today. Hello, this is Matthew from Audio Judo. Are you looking for additional Audio Judo content? Stuff that will make you laugh with an emphasis on music? Then you need to subscribe to our Patreon page, and this is how you do it. First thing, head to our site, patreon.com/audiojudo. Our Patreon site is the only place you're going to find all the extras that we work so hard to provide. There are Judo Chops, which are mini episodes. There are bits that are taken out of episodes for whatever reasons. Some bloopers, some full interviews with artists like Steve Hackett from Genesis. We have 3 tiers currently. There is the Shout It Out Loud tier, which would only cost you $1 in the US. For that amount, you get a shout out by name at the end of each episode. For $5 a month, little step up, the front row tier, you get a shout out on each episode, early access to full episodes, and access to all the bonus content. With a more significant investment, $20 a month, the backstage pass tier, you get everything that is available at the other tiers, a special personalized gift from Kyle and I. Most importantly, after paying for 1 year, you get to host an episode of Audio Judo with me and Kyle on the album of your choosing. We have completed several of these. They're a ton of fun. You can find the link to our Patreon account on our website, audiojudo.com. But if you can't find it there, it is patreon.com/audiojudo. Thanks for subscribing. And now back to the pro.
Welcome back. Uh, Sign Here,
Yeah.
first track on the album.
Oh,
I actually I like this.
do
I
you?
think this is a fun setup to like I can tell already you're gonna be like, well, guess what, Kyle?
Well, guess what,
Like,
Kyle? It sucks.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like, so this starts out as a Gregorian chant.
What the fuck
Re-
is that?
it's reading the legalese from like a contract that you would sign as an artist. I actually think it's really funny. Like,
Do you
it
think they're
sounds like
trying to be
this.
funny?
I do. I think, and it sounds like this. Make up your own mind.
Whereas the undersigned has pledged to abide by the terms herein, and with respect to all debts past and future, does hereby covenant to pay promptly. At any such rate as company may decide, call holiday. Sign here, become a millionaire.
That's what I said. That's what I'm saying. So is
But
the implication they are more or less worshiping at the altar of corporate greed, and this is what happens to you?
maybe. I mean, here's the thing, though. You just said you're like, oh no, you don't start an album this way. Is this supposed to be funny? Look how hard you're laughing at it. So yeah, of course it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be like, oh, guess what? This is the boring corporate shit, and you have to like, if you want to be successful in the music industry, you have to give way to that capitalist bullshit of you have to sign the contract if you want to become the huge millionaire rock star. Now, is this a great delivery of that message? No.
Okay,
If I'm
so
honest, no, it's not.
no.
But go ahead, go ahead.
So going into this album pretty raw, I thinking, I remember what
Giggity.
it sounded like 40 years ago, 45 years ago, to what it actually sounds like. It caught me completely off guard. So, so obviously it's about them leaving or being removed from their contract with Mushroom Records,
Yeah.
that they thought was going to be, the big career sealer. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're good. We're set for life. And then so the lyrics are in with respect to all debts past and future, does hereby covenant to pay promptly at any such rate as company may decide and compound daily. Sign here, become a millionaire, sign there. And as everyone learns in the music industry, that's never how it goes, and more often than not, you get burned. Fine, that's fine. But this opening, and then the high vocal refrain, right? And then from there, which he didn't play, after that really high vocal refrain, it like breaks into like full on yacht rock.
Yes.
Canadian yacht rock, which I guess would
Canadian
make
yacht
it
rock.
pontoon boat rock. Right? I honestly don't remember this band sounding that wimpy to me. And maybe it didn't at the time because, don't misunderstand. I am one of the biggest yacht rock fans around. But this sounds so wimp. And I was getting nervous. I was getting halfway through the song. I'm like, oh, what the hell did I just get myself into? Oh, no. Oh, boy.
But I mean, here's my thing. It is unique. It
Mhm.
is when you look at it as a whole. Now, is this a hook, a great hook to get somebody interested in an album? No. But when you consider it as the concept of this is the beginning, this is where the band is signing up to become huge rock stars, and then the rest of this story is they make it famous, they become huge rock stars, and then they fall from grace. And then at the end, they accept that. They're like, but you know what? We had our moment, we were great, and now we've moved on from the limelight, and we're going to just live our lives.
So I don't think I thought about it being a concept record until the next song. What I think
Sure.
in relation to the entire album, does the opening work? Okay, it does. Is it hokey and a little heavy-handed and
Sure.
silly? Yes. Were they intending to be silly? I don't know that that's the case at all. But It ended up being silly. Oh boy. So we're off and running.
What I honestly think is, had this song been rearranged a little bit, it would have worked a lot better. So had it started as the yacht rock, like had there been a little bit of like an intro, and it started with that yacht rock part and built up, and then right in the middle there was like a break where they did the like, hey, this is, because then it's telling the story of they're a successful band, this is the music they make, and now they're getting their chance. And then there's this break where they do the weird chanting thing, and it's the boring corporate shit, and it's like,
I think you're right.
This is telling us like, they have to step back and they have to accept this boring part in order to become these huge rock stars, and then move on from that with a little bit more of the yacht rocky, rock stuff, and then lead into the next track. I think it would have worked way better.
I think because rearranging would have probably made it more effective.
But I think that again goes back to, had there been one more person, had there been a name brand producer in the room, and no offense to the guy that produced this, but had there been somebody there to make that kind of a decision to say, this is what's going to elevate it to the next level, I think it would have worked a little bit better. But that being said, it is what it is, and it's a interesting opener, I think.
It's an interesting opener, right?
So you want to be a star?
So this is me writing my script in real time. So is this album some type of concept album? That was the first note I have on this song. So because I didn't put it together. So this song feels like the song before Sign Here. To me, this feels like it should have come before that. Like, hey, you're doing a good job on the road and bringing in the crowds and everybody loves you. So now let's get you to sign this contract where we completely rip you off. So sounds great. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Like that's how I framed it in my head. I'm like, this one should have come first. So this song has all the musical tropes, right? It has the canned crowd noise in it.
Yeah.
So then my question is to you at this point, when I was writing this, I said, Kyle, am I being punked? Did you pick this record to make me completely tear it to shreds, or were you really interested in it? Because it kind of feels like the former to me. The production of this record is so weak. It's so weak-kneed. Like, if you really break the song down by how it should have sounded and opposed to the way it really does sound, it's a travesty, right? There's no reverb to thicken up an already empty-ish sounding room. No effects. It's super dry. It sounds like a really average cover band doing songs on a 4-track recorder in someone's basement. And the only problem with that analogy is that most basements have better reverb. Like,
and see, I do wonder if that goes back to having to sneak into the studio to record this album.
Yes.
And
I think maybe there was something to that.
Yeah. But obviously you can't know that if you just grab this album off the shelf and listen to it. So,
and just listening to this song, which I know you're going to play a clip from it here in a second, but just listening to it and what he's trying to write about makes this song sound like a poor man's Jukebox Hero by Foreigner.
Yes.
So his words are, so you want to be a star, all the world knows who you are, so you want to drive him crazy, so you want to be a star, right? Foreigner's words are, now he keeps a rockin', he just can't stop, got to keep on rocking, that boy has to stay on top and be a jukebox hero. And what's funny is if you have ever had a real-life conversation about music outside of this podcast with me, you would know in what low regard I hold the lyrics of Foreigner. I think
that is how you open most conversations.
Right. I think
like
they
you
are
go to
the
the
worst.
dentist and you're like, how's your day going? You're like, Foreigner can't write a song.
Right.
And your dentist's like, we know, Matthew, get on the chair.
I think they are the worst lyricists in rock that actually got popular. And when we eventually do Double Vision, which is coming next season, I will provide a full takedown of those lyrics. But Foreigner's lyrics here are better, and that is hard to fathom.
Oh, brutal.
It is brutal.
You want to be a star sounds like this. Oh, this is fantastic. I love how this is going. Uh, they think you're number one, Matthew, a true phenomenon, the very best they've ever seen so far.
That's what Randy just said.
I know, and I was so happy that he did, that he immediately latched onto that, because it's just, I love the very best you've ever seen so far. You know, we got room to grow. There's still, I mean, you're only the best we've seen up to this point. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So the story continues with "Tell It to the Telephone," which I swear to God, this is actually like a saying from somewhere. And I tried to find, I like a saying from like the 60s or 70s. It's apparently not. So at least not that I could find any information of. But
Mhm.
I think what's happening from the story perspective
Yes,
is
please.
the band has now, they've signed, they've become famous, but their fans demand more of them. The record label demands more of them. There's bills to be paid. There's people who need to be, dealt with, and all these pressing matters are coming to a head, and they don't want to leave. They're just, you know what? We're just going to sit in our house and try to get away from all these fucking people, but they keep calling. So we're constantly on the phone. We're constantly telling it to the telephone. We're constantly, oh, this person wants to do an interview. This person wants to do business with you. This person needs this signed. This person needs these bills paid. This person, when are you doing your next album? When are you doing this? When are you doing that? And they're just constantly on the phone. I think that's what it means.
Yes.
What do you think about it?
Randy, I believe it is a Canadian Tommy. It's a Canadian rock opera. This is as deep as it goes. It's just so.
It's a Canadian Tommy. Oh, that's amazing.
It's so I don't know what this song is about, but all I have in my notes is I said, all right. So are you guys familiar with Stephen A. Smith or Mad Dog Russo? So
No.
either. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, those gentlemen are both sports broadcasters, both currently on ESPN, and both have very successful radio programs. And the reason for their success is very simple. They hate everything that you like. They have made their careers on taking whatever is good about the sports that you love and shitting on all of it. You like Tom Brady? Well, I'm going to tell you why he's the worst human being in history. You hate LeBron James? I'm going to tell you why he's the greatest human in history. The whole basis of their fame is to be contrarian to everything. And I feel like that's what you're trying to do to me. You want me to be contrarian with this album. Because so far I cannot find anything that I really like about it. This song is so bad, so fundamentally crappy, that I feel like a tool for even saying that, because if you listen to it, it should be really obvious why.
And it sounds like this.
The guy holding the bags.
Max.
I can't believe you don't like that little.
I don't.
Ah, you said you had your head down on your desk listening to this at work.
No, here.
Oh,
No,
here, at home.
At home.
So it wasn't even the shame of other people maybe finding out that you were listening to it.
It was
You just had your-
self-shame.
Oh man. I do also wonder if this wasn't a discussion about the game. Do you know the game Telephone?
Of course.
Where, one person tells a secret to another person who tells it to another person.
Of
And
course.
you try to figure out how much it changes and what the original message was. I do wonder if there's not an element of that here as well, where they're saying, like, hey, when you're famous, you tell somebody like, oh, hey, I really like nacho cheese. And then that turns into like, he's addicted to crack cocaine. Like it works its way down the list. And suddenly, like famous rock star addicted to crack cocaine. I love to eat nachos while I do crack. Like
That's the New York Post headline.
that's the New York Post headline. Headline.
He likes to eat nachos while he smokes crack. I didn't say that.
I can't stop. The cheese is so sticky.
It's definitely a song.
It certainly is musical. Too many enemies, Matthew.
Deep sigh,
Apparently, you now one of their enemies.
right? So here's the thing: if you read the lyrics from a point of view that does not include music at all, like you just read it like a little poem, it's surprisingly relevant in 2025 for a song written in 1981. I got too many enemies and not enough friends. Seems like everybody's touchy. Everything offends. Boarded up my windows. Double lock upon my door. They really can't complain about me anymore. No, no, no. Okay. That's something that absolutely resonates in this day and age 44 years later. But where it falters so spectacularly is the sound of it itself, right? On the surface, it appears to be a fairly pedestrian yacht rock song. Sorry, pontoon boat song. Which would make it tolerable, at least, to listen to, but it's the voice. It's the voice. For the life of me, I can't tell if he's trying to satirize himself or if he really believes in what he's trying to sell me. It's just so heavy-handed. And once again, how they're treating his voice is not doing him any favors. It's so not good. So how this album sold 100,000 copies in Canada in 1981, the same year that Rush's Moving Pictures came out, I will never figure out. Someone makes sense of that, unless people are like, oh, Rush is really good. This band, also from Canada, must be good too. Buy it and go, what? Hey.
They actually included a free copy. They actually included a free copy with every pontoon boat sold in Canada in 1981.
Well, that's 100,000 at least.
100,000 at least. So now, let's see what he sounds like.
Every case of Moosehead comes with a copy of this record.
This is what Matthew's complaining about here.
I got too many enemies and not enough friends. Seems like everybody's touchy, everything offends. Boarded up my windows, don't lock up on my door. Ooh, they really can't complain about me anymore. No, no, no. Too many enemies and not enough friends.
Too many enemies and not enough friends. No,
No.
not
No.
doing it for you.
No.
No. All
No,
right.
no.
Well, I honestly don't have a lot to say about this song. I kind of agree with you. I don't think it's a particularly good song. It's definitely on the album.
I mean, if they were selling cassettes, it would be much easier to slip a version, just a copy of this into a bag with like a case of Molson or something and just, for the pontoon boat. You headed out to your pontoon boat on, Lake Ontario. I got my Chilliwack and my case of Molson. I'm all set to go. That's a hell of an afternoon. Living in Stereo?
Living in Stereo, but not the one that you think that it is.
Obviously, this is not the far superior Living in Stereo by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band, The Cars.
No.
I thought that this was maybe the cover of the Cars song, but alas, it was not.
No. It's also very interesting to me that they don't do any like stereo effects in this song.
No, why would you do that?
Like you would think that would be like a fun, like, oh, hey, we're over here, we're over there. No,
That's a
none of
little
that.
too on the nose, Kyle.
Yeah.
You don't
Right?
want to do that. And I don't mind this song as much as I do a lot of the other tracks on the album. It's okay. It's not great. It's not unlistenable. But I think I may have identified one of the things that makes this album sound so, I don't know, cheap or weak.
Sure.
So for all those years in the 80s, right, keyboards and synths used to come pre-programmed with like a handful of sounds that you could use out of the box. And most of us had a keyboard or organ around the house or something like that that would be limited by those 8 sounds. And it began to have a really familiar sound to it, kind of cheap and homegrown. And one of the things that was so cool and interesting about the advent of keys in pop or rock music is that they had these really simple keyboards, but they were extracting these wonderful sounds out of them because they would spend weeks and weeks programming them and messing with them and learning how to master the sounds and develop the sounds so they didn't sound like anybody else. The sounds were what they were able to achieve, which is what set them apart from what we were doing in our basement with a Casio. They were
Yeah.
taking them, they were evolving them. So the keyboard sound on this song and most of this album sounds to me like one of those 8 sounds that came out of the box. It was simple and cheap and not imaginative. So when I hear it, it sounds like any of us could have done it. And we weren't good. So why the hell am I listening to this? And
It sounds like this.
There you go.
See what it sounds like.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know what you mean. It's like stereo. I can tell that you're talking, but my head just isn't working. I'm in stereo. Everything is funny, like I'm sitting on the bottom of the sea. I don't know if I like it or if someone ought to come and rescue me.
Want to be Hall & Oates?
There's a lot. I mean, you guys just mentioned Hall & Oates. There
Yeah.
are a lot of why can't I think of the band's name? There's a lot of bands that I feel like they're either taking elements from, I mean, they definitely didn't influence,
No.
even though the timing would line up correctly. But so in the previous song, there's a little bit of Dire Straits in there.
There's something in there.
There's
Yeah.
a little bit. It's not much. It's not good Dire Straits, but there's a little bit of that sound in there. Here, you guys said it's a little bit of Hall & Oates. If you go back to Tell It to the Telephone, it's a little bit of Rupert Holmes, the Pina Colada song, and he had
Answering Machine.
Answering Machine, and shit, what is the Instant Replay? Like that was the song I was thinking of, is Instant Replay, which I'm pretty sure is also by Rupert Holmes, because that's what he did.
But he had a good sound. His sound, it was different.
did.
It was more developed.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's a great imitation, but there's a little bit of each of those in here, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting too that you had mentioned like the keyboard sample sounds.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen, PBS made this show a few years ago now, well, probably more than a few years ago now, called Beat Making Lab.
No.
And it's a really cool series that they made where they basically, the premise of it was, this was mid 2000s probably. And the premise was like, hey, you can now have an entire recording studio that can fit in a suitcase, because all you need is, a MIDI keyboard, an Apple laptop, a recording device, a couple of microphones, and you can go nuts.
Mhm.
And so this guy was like, you know what I'm going to do? He put together this kit and went around the world with it and was like, hey, I'm going to Gambia and I'm going to go out into a village and I'm going to sit down with these people for like a musician in this village in Gambia for 3 days. I'm going to show them how all this works. And then I'm going to leave it with them for 3 months. And then we're going to come back and see what they made with it.
Mm.
And so he did this all over the place. They went to like Fiji. They went to a bunch of African countries. They went to the Middle East. They went to Taiwan, I think, or Thailand, Vietnam. They went all over the place with this kit for a few years, multiple kits, I would assume. Gave it to people and then had them make all these beats. But the number one thing that he teaches them when he gets there is, hey, here's a whole bunch of samples, right, that come with this software. Throw all that out. We want you to go out and make your own noises, make actual sounds. So go out. You need like a click noise. Great. Go out and record 20 different click noises, figure out which one works best for you, put it into the MIDI keyboard, sample it, do whatever you want with it. Here's how you cut it. Here's how you do everything to it. And it's amazing because a lot of times the musicians would start with those basic noises.
Yeah.
Just to get like a beat down or whatever. And then they would go and find the noise that they wanted and replace it. And he would play them side by side on the show. And you would be like, oh my God, that really does sound like a totally different, because the original is just this very like beep, boop, boop, boop. And then the real thing was like, oh my God, this is actually music. This is actually something amazing. It's a really cool,
the fun part of making music is experimentation and developing sounds that, okay, the reason why I'm trying to do this as an artist is to make something that other people haven't done yet. That's what makes it unique and original, is like, okay, I'm going to play with this. And that's why these 8 sounds, It's like grandma's organ with a bossa nova beat on it. Like, ooh, I love the bossa nova. And you're like, okay, I get it. But now I want to develop something else. Well, that's going to take you weeks. Nope.
No.
Nope, I'm sticking with these.
Mr. Rock.
Uh,
Our character finally has a name, and he is
Mr. Rock. Original name of this song was The Idol Pop.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is one of the songs I actually found other information about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
There's a couple.
Yeah, he defined the song is about idol pop stars and the routines they go through, or as he explains it, wandering around their dressing gowns wandering around in their dressing gowns at 3 or 4 in the afternoon and then getting up and going about their day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the lyrics are, you had a shot, a star you're not. You spent your money and you lied a lot. So tell your friends that you're on top. The truth will hurt because you know you're not. I mean, they aren't good. But as I listened to this song, it rang a lot of bells in my head. So I must have heard this song at some point. And probably a few times because it was so recognizable. And is it possible that this was played on a yacht rock channel or a soft rock radio channel recently? It's not bad. And if I'm being completely honest, it sounds like the most done song on the album. Like there was actually some finish put on top of it. It doesn't rub me the wrong way like the rest of the record does. I actually listened to this song a few times and I'm like, okay, that's pretty good.
It also has a pretty good guitar solo in it.
It does.
It's nothing groundbreaking, but it's a decent guitar solo. I'm not sure if that was Bill or Brian playing the guitar here, but have a listen.
Drinking, smoking, getting around.
I mean, it's actually like that song. So,
Yeah. It's, should we call this the hidden gem on this album?
I would say yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Then this rolls right into the one song that everybody might know.
Gone.
My Girl, Gone, Gone, Gone. So obviously in the storyline here, this big rock star has now lost the love of their life because they've become too famous and lived the hedonistic lifestyle of a rock star.
It's, for all intents, the hit of the record. Yeah. Perhaps the song that put the album on your radar, or some people's radar. Spent 4 weeks at number 3 in Canada, and in the United States it reached number 22, which is not that bad, actually. I mean, we have covered many an album that didn't have singles that rise that high.
Yeah.
So the whole story about it, guitarist Brian McLeod invited singer Bill Henderson onto his boat to sail around the coast of British Columbia and fish and write songs. How Canadian is that?
Do you think it was a pontoon boat?
I want to believe it was a pontoon boat. But they were just writing some chord changes down on a keyboard and singing the melody down, 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 down to down. He thought it was like kind of Beach Boys-esque and had a lot of weird chord changes, and they ended up recording it in a day. And there, Bob's your uncle. There you go. There's your song.
Man. Weirdly, this is kind of the song that sort of broke the camel's back. So there was that confusion with Mushroom Records breaking apart because the guy who was in charge of it had passed away. And like I mentioned, the band weren't allowed to record in a studio. So they had this demo tape of this that they had recorded on a 4-track. And this was one of the first songs that they snuck into the studio to try to record. While they were in the studio, Brian McLeod was actually pressing his face so close to the microphone when he sang that he would saturate it with so much moisture, the microphone would short out. And then they'd have to stop every 5 or 6 words and wait for it to dry out. So they would spin it around to get it all dried out. Sounds like this.
Gone, 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 she been gone so long, she been gone, gone, gone so long. long. A gone, 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 she's been gone so long. She's been gone, gone, gone so long. A gone, 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 she's been gone so long. She's been gone, gone, gone so long. A gone, 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 she's been gone so long. A gone, 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 gone so long. Ever since she left me, I sure feel all alone. A little misunderstanding, I can't get her on the telephone. Hanging on down the main street, living in a different world. Standing around with the gang on the corner, talking about my girl, my girl. She was the world to me. She's gone away across the sea. My girl is just a memory. She's been so long away.
So they were nominated for a Juno Award for 1982 Composer of the Year, as well as Single of the Year in Canada. And the song is okay. The part that's really interesting is that low "Gone, Gone, Gone" part. The rest of it's really kind of average for me.
Yeah. Again, going back to like how their other bands like tie in with this. This to me sounds like it would be like a Bee Gees B-side. You know what I mean? Like this absolutely would be like, you know, like
Need
front
more
is Night
falsetto. Yeah, more falsetto.
Yeah, exactly. Front would be Night Fever, and then you flip it over and it's My Girl, Gone, Gone, Gone. You know, like
It's
that
just
would
so
absolutely-
happy.
Yeah.
For a song about losing his lady, it's just really too upbeat. Like, woo.
Also, did you see the note about SCTV?
No.
So this is very nerdy, but it absolutely fits in with you and I. April 23rd, 1982 episode of the Canadian sketch comedy TV
Yes.
series SCTV. They did a skit called Preteen World Telethon, which has Catherine O'Hara as the preteen host who gets to stay up late to raise money. I don't even know what they're raising money for, but John
irrelevant.
Candy. But there's a fictional preteen garage band called the Recess Monkeys, and they perform this song. It's John Candy on drums, Eugene Levy on backing vocals and guitar, and Rick Moranis, on guitar, vocals, and playing the tambourine. Rick Moranis on guitar and lead vocals, and Eugene Levy on guitar, backing vocals, and tambourine.
Legends.
They do it absolutely like perfectly, like you would expect. They're dressed like preteens. They absolutely do it. They got them extra big instruments, so they look like way too awkward for them. The video is like 4 minutes long. Go watch it. It's so funny.
All right,
And
I
it's
gotta
just
watch
like
it.
it's just like four absolutely amazing, you know, comedians that are still, you know, with the exception of, you know,
John
Rick
Candy.
Moranis is, yeah, John Candy's passed away obviously, and Rick Moranis isn't really working anymore by his
He
choice.
is Spaceballs 2.
I saw that he's coming
Yeah.
back. Amazing.
Recess
Yeah. Oh, when are we going to
Monkeys.
do a Rick Moranis country album too?
Oh, here it is. Preteen telethon.
Yeah, you'll have to watch it later. Really funny. But anyways, I had to throw that in here because that would have been less than a year after this song came out, and it had already filtered to a point where, you know, comedians were making fun of it. So
Well,
don't know if
that is something
time-
I can enjoy before rehearsal today.
yeah. Don't want to live for a living.
Such a weird place with this record. There are parts of it that remind me, like you said, of other bands, other songs. This song sounds like a bit of a Cars ripoff again.
Yes, it does.
I do like it because it sounds so much like a Cars song, and I love the Cars. Or do I hate it because it's such a low-grade ripoff of a band that I love? I don't know. I know they're trying some stuff, and God bless them for trying, but none of it really lands effectively. It's all just a little bit short of the mark. The lyrics: don't want to live for a living, don't want to be there no more, don't want to live for a living, don't want to be there no more. Okay, I get it. You know, a band like Loverboy, which was also a Canadian rock band around the same time, were writing about the same stuff. And the lyrics weren't that much better. But they were they surrounded them with much better and catchier melodies, stuff that we would all be singing for the next 45 years working for the weekend. These are the same concepts, just not done as well.
Right. I agree with you on this one. It's also to go from a song that is not great but well known and put together okay and somewhat interesting back to this is a little jarring. It sounds like this.
Oh,
Kiss my ass. It's it's right there. One step up. Like just a little bit more production polish on this song and a little bit more something to like massage it.
yeah,
just
we
right.
may have been singing
This
that
would've
song
been-
for the next 45 years.
Right?
If it just had a little more oomph.
A little more
Something.
mwah, a little more a little more I don't know what it is.
Something.
Walk On.
Yes. Oh, the cheese
Yeah.
factor's off the charts on this one too. The synthy section with the swoopy sounds all over the place, the very
Yeah.
uncomfortable falsetto. Canada. Man, I know we
What do
have a
you
lot
think?
of Canadian fans, and I love you guys to death, but Christ, you could do so much better than this. And thank God you did. You did. One positive.
I can't think of another Canadian band I like better than Chilliwack, Matthew. So
Really?
I don't know what you're talking
That's
about.
unfortunate. Gratefully, one positive from the song. It has my favorite lyrical stanza on the whole album.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they love you best. They pin upon your chest a prize. In their eyes, you rise above the rest. It's nice to know you made hate honor roll.
Ooh,
I don't hate that.
honor roll.
Yeah, I like
Pretty
that.
good.
I thought that's
Hate
it.
honor
I'm like
roll.
going through all the lyrics. I'm like, that little section stood out. I'm like, all right, that got some work.
I actually thought I think the title of this is a little bit of wordplay as well from the overall story again of our album.
Mhm.
So walk on meaning to continue away. You're walking on from what you had to go about your other business. But also walk on like, oh hey, remember that guy that used to be a famous musician and a huge star? Here he is now to come on and, sing backup vocals for this other famous band that's rising right now. Come on stage, it's a walk on.
Oh, kind of giving him a kind of similar.
Throwing him a bone.
Heather and I, when we saw Joey Fatone perform at Disney World last year, and he was joined by very special guests, Ryan Cabrera and Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Hey, come on stage, guys. We're going to do a song together. Like,
And we're in the front row. Thank you, Steve Fatone. Going, is that Lou Diamond Phillips? Yeah. And is he about to sing old time rock and roll with Joey Fatone at Disney World? Yes, I believe he is. Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
all
this
right,
is
yeah,
what's going to
that's-
happen. All right. Well, okay, here we go. This is a thing. This is
Matthew-
happening.
That's the magic of Disney World, Matthew. Walk on sounds like this.
Joke. He's like, sure, I'll get you in. Like, what? No, I was kidding.
Yeah. Not really. Again, not a great song. Not
And not
horrible.
memorable.
No, not at all memorable. I believe. So I think here the narratively they're looking back at like, hey, we rose to success and now we believe that the future is still bright for us, even though we had this huge low. We're gonna rise back up and lead a successful life moving forward.
Right. And it's also, okay, not an unpopular song by any stretch, which surprises the hell out of me. So
Yeah.
song peaked at number 13 for 2 weeks in Canada, number 33 in the States on the Billboard Hot 100, which isn't bad. Late 1981, they performed this song on American Bandstand, and that's saying something because that used to be a pretty big deal, especially around 1981. That was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And what do I feel about this song? Shit, I like it.
Oh,
You know, this one is really good. And it's funny because I saw a post the other day on social media that said, name an album that is a real clunker that has one good song on it. And nothing came to mind until now.
Eh.
Because this song is really enjoyable. I don't know why. Maybe it's produced better than most of the others. Again, maybe not. Maybe I like it because it's super simple. But it's a pleasant song that I could have easily heard on yacht rock or soft rock radio.
It sounds like this.
Oh.
I was lost in time, feeling like the victim of a perfect crime. Until that night, I met you. How was I to know just what your love could do?
It definitely, this has, I think, out of every song on this album, probably the heaviest like yacht rocky sound to it.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with you on that. It definitely would fit right into a yacht rock radio station playlist with no problem. I like this song too.
Yeah.
It is not the greatest song ever. I think that it's,
It's
good.
just a tribute.
It's okay. It's okay. The only thing that I don't like about it is every time I hear the phrase "I believe," I think of that song from the Book of Mormon, and all I can think about is, "And I believe that in 1978 God changed his mind about black people." So every single time I hear the phrase "I believe," I'm like, that line stands right out to me. So every time they say it in this song, I'm like, "You believe that God changed his mind about black people in 1978? All right, cool, good for you."
Okay, cool. Yeah,
It sounds good.
Book of Mormon. There you go.
Yeah, but that's it. That's "Want to Be a Star" by Chilliwack.
Right, it's an okay record, and the good songs, of which there are two I could name, are able to pull up the shittier songs to make this an okay record. So that's why I would rate it as such okay. It's certainly not something that I will put in any sort of regular rotation as I listen. But if it comes on the radio, if Heather and I are at the casino and sipping wine and listening to yacht rock, and this comes on, and I won't be like, ew. I'll be like, I know this song now.
You could add a couple of these to your yacht rock playlist.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with that. So we want to know what you guys hear or think about it. Like, do you hate?
Did we just
Chilliwack?
insult pontoon boat owners from the entire country of Canada?
Oh, there's
Our
no
apologies,
doubt that
not
I
our
did.
intention.
Yeah, no doubt that I did. And anyone that drinks Molson or Moosehead's probably pissed at me, but it's okay.
No.
Which is most of Canada. So let us know what you think about it. You can get a hold of us at facebook.com/audiojudo or Instagram at audio_judo or YouTube at youtube.com/@audiojudo, or you can send us an email at info@audiojudo.com. And we're happy to respond to you and field questions if you have questions, and just let us know what you think or what you want to hear, or what you want us to talk about, or how we suck. That's fine. Guy, you got some patrons there?
I do. Simon C., our UK consultant at the Shout It Out Loud tier. Thank you so much. John R. at the Front Row Seats tier. Thank you so much. Scott K., Michael S., Michael A., Kristen K., David W., and Christian S., all at the Backstage Pass tier. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. We couldn't keep doing this without all of your love and support.
We have albums coming up by King Crimson and beginning of season 7, Toad the Wet Sprocket again, as we normally start our seasons. And a lot more. Heavy on the prog next year, probably.
Yeah, there's at least 3 that I can think of. So
yeah, so
it'll be good.
Leaning into that a little bit. Oh, I think I put Heart's album.
Which one did you pick? Because I know we've talked about doing a Heart album for a while.
This one. This one.
Nice. Which one is that? I don't recognize the cover.
Heart. It's Heart.
Oh, it's just
by
Heart. It's Heart by Heart.
1985-ish.
I can't wait to get a Heart on.
But other than that, everybody, we will talk to you again in 2 weeks. Until then, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.